Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the forecast for each life path number for the month of March 2025. Before we get into the forecast, this is a general forecast. If you would like your own personal numerology, in where we'll take a look at the numbers of your charts, your forecast, all of the good things, then please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below, and I would love to work with you. All right, let's take a look at what March has in store. Life path number 8. You all are going to be working with the vibration of the 2 for March. And so this brings in a little bit of a different energy than what, is more 8 energy. And so for the 2 energy, when we move through a 2 cycle, a lot of times this sort of pushes us to be more of the follower instead of the leader, meaning that the goal is to work together, to lean more towards diplomacy, to find common ground, to compromise, to open the space so that everyone has, an opportunity to share their needs and their expertise and et cetera, and then coming together, working together to create something that benefits everyone. And so it doesn't necessarily mean be a follower in that, you're not asserting yourself or sharing your ideas, etc. It just means in this cycle, it's not about being the leader. It's not about taking charge or being overly assertive. It's about putting your energy towards finding the common ground, right? What works for all involved? What's the best option for all involved? So relationships absolutely come into the forefront this month for you all. And it's not about you and your romantic partner necessarily. It's about all forms of relating to another person. So this may be a month, especially if you are someone who sort of likes to be the leader, who likes to sort of be more in control of the dynamic. This is going to be a month where you might be confronted with where you may be doing that in an unhealthy way when it comes to your relationships. And so this is a wonderful opportunity to step back a little bit, become the observer, and really be open to what other people have to say. So, there's something to be said about, especially when it comes to our relationships, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be about our core relationships. It can be any connection. But there's something to be said about truly listening to the feedback. Doesn't mean we have to internalize it or buy into it or, go against ourselves to believe it. But when we can be open and hear what the other person has to say about their experience with us, about how they're feeling, then we gain a better perspective about how to show up to that connection. And if we want healthy connections, then that actually serves us well. If we don't want healthy connections and we just want to sort of dominate those connections, then there's no need to hear what the other person has to say, right? So this month could show you in your connections where you need to not change who you are, but become the observer and be open to hearing what the other person has to say, while also creating the space for you to be able to express yourself in the way that you need to. And the whole point of all this, again, is to find common ground, to be able to connect with another person through understanding of what everyone involved needs in order to create something, hopefully, that will create some kind of a solution for everybody involved. So beautiful energy for taking a close look at your relationships and see where it is that maybe there's some disconnect in those connections because of the sort of the imbalance in the exchange of energy, right? Is there an equal exchange of energy? Is there reciprocity? Is there an effort in all involved to compromise, not sacrifice, but can't compromise? And if there's not, then that's part of that bigger conversation. And so again, this can come in the form of, you and your boss, or you and a colleague, or you and a friend, or it doesn't matter. It's just wherever there is that imbalance within that connection. And sometimes we're responsible for that imbalance, but where there's an imbalance, this month could really point that out to us. And then it's up to us to have those conversations, right? And to hopefully work towards some kind of common ground. This can be a month that feels highly sensitive, where there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And, it can be sort of driven by that sensitivity. So you just want to, again, become the observer in your life this month and take the emotional charge out of it to the best of your ability. And if you're not able to do that, then remove yourself from the situation so that you can get to a neutral space emotionally, or ask for someone to intervene. Call in a mediator to help with the situation, right? Because the charged emotion of situations, that's usually what causes the disruption. That's usually what causes the breakage within connections, is the reactivity because of that charged emotion. So again, if your boss treats you poorly, instead of reacting from that charged emotion of the disregard, right, of the action, pause, come back to neutral, get yourself back to neutral before you approach your boss and have the conversation, right? Because anything driven from extreme emotions isn't going to get good. It's going to get extreme results, right? So this is an opportunity to manage your emotions, not bypass them, not disregard them, not suppress them, but to acknowledge them and to work with them to get to a place of being able to manage those emotions, right? So in other words, this is a great month for helping us to get to greater emotional maturity. But you could find that it's a sensitive month. There could be relationships that come up at this time that, trigger you, that push your buttons, that sort of thing. And it's really a great teacher to help you to get in control of those emotions. And again, it's not invalidating the experience for you. None of that stuff. It's just helping you to have better control over how you respond. And that is going to dictate the experience that you have. The other thing I would say is, again, this could be a month that there's a lot of decisions to be made. And so you want to make sure that you trust yourself. You come back to yourself. How do you really feel about the situation? What are your thoughts? What are your driving points? Like what do you want to see with this connection? All of these things could come up for evaluation this month for you. And you want to really make sure that when you're making a decision, especially if it revolves around relationships, you're doing it from a good space and you're trusting yourself in that process. So a lot coming in this month, especially around relationships. Also balance. You want to make sure that if there's a place where you feel out of balance this month, that you're working towards getting into greater balance. 2 cycles are great for that. So body, mind, spirit, if there's anywhere that there's a disconnect, this energy will help you to see that and hopefully get reconnected, or to find, again, a solution. So pay attention to where it is that there might be communication breakdowns, poor communication, where you're not seeing the bigger perspective, or just, where there's that disconnect. 2 energy is about building the bridge. It's the bridge builders, and it's about diplomacy and finding common ground and working together. And so this is a beautiful opportunity. And sometimes we have to swallow our pride. Sometimes we have to be the bigger person. Sometimes we really have to take a really closer look at ourselves and see how we contributed to that breakdown of that connection, and where it is that we need to take responsibility or accountability for that occurrence, right? Or where we need to hold the other person to the fire to take accountability for their actions. So just a lot coming up this month around relationships. You could see some relationships fall away this month. You could see other relationships come back in that are tighter now than they ever were. So a lot going on this month for you all 8s. Now, it's interesting because I pulled your animal wisdom message, and you got Canadian goose or geese, right? And it's interesting because if you ever have seen geese fly, of course, similar to ducks, right? They fly in a V, and the stronger one, who's the most well rested, will take the lead. But when that one gets tired, it'll fall back, and the next one will come up in the front. And they continue to do that. And if you've ever seen the changing of the guards as geese are in flight, it's pretty awesome to see, actually. But it ties in so beautifully with this two energy, because the two really brings people together. It's meant to bring unity and people together and finding common ground, etc., and working together for the greater solution and for the greatest reward. And geese are brilliant at doing that. They work together so that everyone succeeds, and there's not just like not only the leader succeeds, because there is no leader, right? They work together to make sure they get to their destination. So beautiful energy for you all this month. Yeah, hope it's a great one. Take care. Bye for now.